Hey there, I'm Kathleen Jasper, and we are doing our live webinar today for the Praxis 5006 and 7811. These are elementary education exams, and I am live on Facebook, YouTube, I think LinkedIn, and a few other places. Those of you who are joining the webinar through the webinar link, like you registered for this, you should be coming in and let me know in the chat that you can hear me okay and see me. I'm just going to check Facebook, make sure I'm live over there, because last week I did a webinar and I wasn't live on Facebook. So it still looks like I'm not live on Facebook, but let's see if I'm live on YouTube. Yep, I'm live on YouTube. I think I'll be live on Facebook here soon. Not sure why I'm not, but that is okay. So we are working through the 7811 and the 5006 elementary education webinars. These are going to be certification exams for people in the states that use Praxis. However, if you are taking any elementary ed exam, this is going to help you. Awesome. Guys are coming in. Trisha, Selena, Kristen, Marlon, Sasha, good to see you. I just published a new book for this exam. So this is the 5006, but I also published the 7811, which I just hit publish on that yesterday at 10 a.m. So I didn't have time to order it, but it is available. I'm going to show you where it's available. But these books are awesome, you guys. I'm so excited about them. And every time I write a new study guide, I use the feedback and the information that you all give me to write them. So this one is our latest and greatest, along with the 7811. And I'm really excited about that. I'm going to give you a preview of that. Today, we'll be working through the free study guide that you got with this webinar. If you are watching me on social media, then the link is in the description. Okay, so that is happening there. I don't know why I'm not live on Facebook, which is really annoying because this happened last time. Anyway, oh well, we'll fix it later. So today I'm going to show you a few things about this exam. So these exams are both very similar. The 5006 and the 7811 are very similar. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm just going to go over to the test specifications really quickly for these particular exams. So you can see here that this is the 7811, and this is, got 4 subtests. You have the reading and language arts right here. You have the mathematics, you have the science, and then you have the social studies. Now, this is broken up into 4 parts. The 5006 is a newer exam. It still has 4 parts, but they group 2 parts together in each subtest. They group the reading and language arts and the social studies together as the 5007, and then they group the mathematics and the science together. And the reason why they do this is because the reading and language arts and social studies kind of go together in terms of reading strategies, in terms of content. Obviously the social studies is a different ballgame, but the skills that students use in these 2 content areas are similar. And what they want you to do is kind of intermingle these so that you can, kind of overlap these subject areas. All right. So this is the 5006 blueprint that I'm looking at here. And you can see that the 5007 is the language arts and reading and social science. And then the 5008 is the math and science. But these 2 exams are very similar. If you go into the test specifications, which is right below the blueprint of the exam in each section, you'll see these long descriptions. And I always tell everybody that this is really important information and that you should be reading this because this is all fair game. Now, I have this in my study guide, so you don't have to, look at too many documents at once, but if you were to look at, foundational literacy skills, and then you went to print concepts, alphabetic principles, all of this, this is the 7811. It's actually the 7812 because it's the language arts and reading. If we go over to the 5007, and I go down to the specification, notice I have print concepts, alphabetic principles, phonological awareness, all the same things that I'm going to have in the 7812. So that's really why I decided to combine these two exams for this webinar, because it really is so much overlap in the webinar. So that's really, really important. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So I'm going to be working from the free study guide, and we're just going to go through each section. Now, like I said before, the 5006 is broken up into 2 subtests, and the 7811 is broken up into 4, but it's still the same. So the way the free study guide is structured, it's more structured by the 5006, but you're still getting that content that you need. Okay. So what I will do is first, let me show you really quickly. Let me share screen here. I have to share my entire screen. I say this every webinar, but okay, so here is the free study guide that you got when you downloaded and you got the link to this webinar. Now, if you are on social media right now watching me live, you can see that there is a link in the description. And if you want to click that, you can download this. But I'm going to project this right now, so you don't have to go in and do that yet. You could do it afterwards if you wanted to, if you want to stay connected here. If you are live in the webinar right now and you're in the chat and you're saying hi, and I can see all of you guys there, you already have this. But again, I'm going to project it. Now, this is just a piece of a bigger document. So I'm going to show you just a little bit. This is the 5006 full study guide, and there are 360 pages here. This free study guide is only 6 pages. It's just a snippet, and we're going to work through it. But I just want to show you a little bit about the study guide here. So whenever you go into my study guides, you are always going to get the test specifications. So that's always at the beginning of each section because it's so important. And of course, I say this is from ETS Study Companion. But within that, what I do is I fill in all of the information. Look at alphabetic principle here, phonemic awareness and phonological awareness. All of this is going to come with the 7811 study guide and the 5006 study guide. There's just so much, especially when it comes to reading. The science of teaching reading is very complicated. There are a lot of skills that students need, and there are a lot of skills you need to understand. So that's really important that when you do get the study guide, that you read through this information. Lots of people just like to go straight here to the practice tests, do a bunch of practice test questions, and think that they're going to get the same exact questions on the exam, and that's not what happens. These are structured very similarly as the exam. They go by the test specifications and the blueprint. However, there's no way to know what you're going to get on test day. So I recommend that you look over things and make sure that you are understanding all the skills and concepts and things like that. Okay, so one of the things that I also want to show you here, and this is, I'll go to the 7811 for this one. So for the 7811, we have comprehensive mathematics. Now, for these particular exams, the math is tough, not only because you have to know the math, but you have to understand the teaching of the math. So in this study guide, I go through all the concepts, but you have to understand stuff like this, like the way elementary learners learn math, and like reading, it's a progression of skills. And so you have to understand the math itself, and then you have to understand how students would solve these problems. Of course, we use different, manipulatives and understanding that. And then it gets quite complicated, to be honest with you. Let me go down to the last part of the math. Sorry, I don't want to make you guys dizzy by, so we're in the, this is the early equations, expressions, measurement, and geometry. Both of these sections are the same in the 5008, which is a subtest of the 5006, and the 7813, which is a subtest of the 7811. ETS has all these crazy numbers and things like that. But early equations, expression, measurement, and geometry, this is elementary school, but let me tell you, this is not easy. They even do the coordinate plane, which is going to be questions like this, where you're working with the XY axis, and even doing geometry. Notice this question right here. triangle has the coordinates, oops, I just highlighted everything, 2, 6, 2, 1, 8, 1, you have to figure out the area of this triangle on the coordinate plane. So not only do you have to know how to plot and graph and read that, but then you have to know how to use geometry. And then on top of that, you have to see where a student might have made a mistake. So this is really tough. And so if you are working on this exam and you're finding yourself, frustrated, and you're like, oh, I can't get it. These skills are really difficult. Yes, it's an elementary ed exam. However, it has a lot of really difficult concepts on it. Okay. So we're going to go through a lot of those concepts today. If you have the study guide in front of you, I'm just going to go through it question by question. If you have questions in the chat, you can throw them in there and I will periodically have a look at those. One more thing before we start, I just want to show you some free resources and paid resources for what I'm doing today. So obviously, this is my website here. You can get all of my study guides by clicking on the study guide panel. Notice we've added a lot. I'm really excited. This list is growing. I'm trying to write as quickly as I can. I'm the one who writes the study guide. So, it takes me a minute to write a 360-page study guide. So I'm working really hard there. You can also click this link and it'll take you to all the study guides we have. And then, you can click on the pictures, things like that. Today, once you are done with this webinar, let me share this tab. You are going to receive an email from me with everything we talked about, and then the replay link, and then the study guide, and then an offer code for 20% off. And then, the information, whatever test you're looking for here. So you don't have to worry about all that now. It's going to come to you at the end. And, that will help you there. So you can get it on my website. You're going to get it in an email. There's an offer code and all of that if you are interested in buying. Oh, and one more thing. I really was excited to share this with you guys. So we are #1 on Amazon bestsellers for all professional test study guides. This is my study guide, Praxis 2 Elementary Education. It's a little bit different than the one we're doing today. So the one we're doing today is more about teaching, and the math and the science and the social science is linked to the practice of teaching. This one is a little bit different. It is an elementary ed test and there are a lot of similarities, but I just thought I'd share with you guys because I just discovered this yesterday that we're #1 on Amazon for bestsellers, and it's for all of them. Like you can see, this is the real estate exam. This is like a medical exam, and my little purple book is at #1. We also have a book at number 13. It's out of 100. We have Praxis Teaching Reading at number 13. My 5901 is here. SLLA, this is a leadership exam here. So I was just really excited about that and thought I would share that with you guys. Now, when you are in on my my product page here, let's say you don't want a digital study guide. So on my website, I sell the digital study guides and it'll be emailed to you in a link. But if you want a physical copy, there's always a button right here for the Amazon physical copy. And when you click that, it will take you to the Amazon page for this, and you can read the description and stuff like that. These don't have reviews yet, but if you go to like my Praxis 2, you can see that we have over 600, almost 700 5-star reviews. So we do take a lot of, I take a lot of time in writing these books. I make sure they have a lot of information in them and make sure that you guys have everything you need. And every time I write a new book, I learn something new and make sure I implement that and all of that. All right. Anybody have any questions so far? Good morning from Miami. Good morning from Maryland. Good morning from the Philippines, Louisiana. Awesome. Good to see you guys. Thank you so much for joining me on a Saturday because I know you're probably tired, but I appreciate it. All right. So let's go ahead and turn to the free study guide that you have. If you don't have it, it's okay. I'm going to project right now. And let me just get my little pen ready here. Okay, I'm ready here. And let me make sure we got it here. Okay. And we're going to share and we're moving over here. All right. So we're going to start with the language arts and reading. This is the first section in both books. And, the language arts and reading can be very difficult. There are so many little skills here that you need to understand in the way students acquire reading comprehension and word recognition. Now, this is an elementary ed exam. So these are going to be the foundational skills of reading. Am I sharing the right screen here? Yes, I am. Okay, cool. So you're going to need to know a lot about phonemic awareness, phonics, phonological awareness, and morphology. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you this in context. So we're going to actually look at test questions, and I'm going to kind of break this down. But just know there is a lot more information out there. And I have some more free resources on my YouTube channel where I go in more depth. But let's have a look at these particular questions here. So let's start with number one. And let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit for you. Okay, let's zoom in here. And you know that if you've watched any of my videos, I am always starting from the answer choices here. And so I see that I have some skills here: phonemic awareness, phonics, morphology, and silent reading. Now, typically on the exam, silent reading is going to be a not so great word when it comes to a test question. However, it could be the answer, but typically you're going to want to stay away from answers like that. I want to make sure you can see it on my screen. I'm checking my screen here as you guys are watching this as well. You want to be careful with silent reading. Not to say that silent reading is not something we do and something that's very important, because it is, but it's typically not the correct answer, because a lot of times the answers are about students who struggle with reading or students who are just learning to read. And so silent sustained reading usually is not the thing you do with students who are, just now recognizing words. But it could be the right answer. So I'm going to be, a little bit wary of D, but let's go ahead and read the question. It says, students are learning to identify individual sounds in words. Which foundational skill are they working on? Now, this is a pretty simple question. If you're not a reading teacher, it might be quite difficult. But when we're talking about sounds in words, sounds only, we're talking about phonemic awareness. Now, phonemic awareness you can do in the dark. Think about that. Remember that when you're taking the exam. If the skill has to do with just listening to the sounds in words, replacing sounds in words where the students do not have to see the letter, do not have to see the word, it's just the listening of the sounds and sound identification. That's it. That's phonemic awareness. Phonemes are individual sounds in words. So if we have phonemic awareness, we understand the individual sounds in words. Now, students learn this on a continuum. There are steps to phonemic awareness, but overall, this particular strategy, they are working on phonemic awareness. Now, let's go over what phonics is. If it said something like students are looking at the word phonics, let's just use the word we're talking about here, and they see the PH together, and they know that makes a F sound, that is letter sound correspondence. I saw the letters. I know there's a sound attached together that makes up phonics. But notice I cannot do it in the dark. I have to see the letters. So phonics is out here because we're not looking at the letters. We're just identifying individual sounds. Now, morphology, let's say that I wanted to break up the word unhappy into two distinct words, un and happy. I wanted to break off the prefix and look at the root word there. That is morphology. Morphology has to do with individual meanings in the words. For example, un means not and happy means happy or joyful or whatever you want to call it. And so in this case, if we were to examine the prefix here, un, we would know that this means not, and then whatever the root word is here. So when you're breaking up compound words, when you're breaking up prefixes, suffixes, and roots, also referred to as affixes or affixes, that would be morphology. And again, sight reading. Sight reading is kind of a nonsense answer here. Sight words, sight recognition, high frequency words. That's when we have students kind of memorize the words that they see all the time in reading. Some people are against this practice. Some people are for this practice. I think a little bit of everything is really good in reading instruction. I think systematic, explicit phonics instruction is very important. And I also think that memorizing high frequency words can be very helpful as well. So both sight reading or sight words is when you're automatically memorizing words, very, very high frequency words like the, she, because, as, those types of words that show up a lot in reading. Okay. But in this case, we're talking about phonemic awareness. All right, let's go to number 2. And again, I'm going to go to the answer choices, and I have more skills here. Move my mouse. There we go. So I have phoneme manipulation. So again, phoneme manipulation is just sounds in words. Onset and rhyme, I'll talk about that in a second. We already talked about morphology, and etymology is the origin of words. So if we were studying the Greek or Latin roots in words, etymology and morphology can be kind of linked. Etymology is the study of where the words came from. All right. So let's have a look at the question. A teacher has students replace keywords. We always want to be looking at keywords in the question. The beginning sound in play with the st or st sound, making the word stay. What type of activity are the students working on? Now, again, I have this word sound here. It doesn't mention letters. It says replace the sound with the st sound. Notice sound, sound. Again, I'm using phoneme manipulation. Now, you may be tempted to choose onset and rhyme because the PL, that's an H. Hold on. There we go. Let's turn that into an L. The PL is the onset and the AY is the rhyme, RIME. And the PL is the onset. Now, in the word stay, the ST is the onset and the AY is the rhyme, RIME. Well, in this case, we're not doing onset and rhyme. We just are messing with the onset sound. The pull is being replaced with st. So it's not going to be onset and rhyme. And they might do this to you. This is where those nuances come in. We didn't talk about the rhyme. The rhyme is not going on here. So I'm going to cross off B. Morphology we just talked about is breaking up of words in terms of meaning, and the breaking up the pull and the st is not going to give you any kind of meaning. So morphology is out and D is out because we're not studying the origin of the words. Okay. All right. Let's have a look at number 3 here. Again, I have the answer choices and phonemic awareness, phonics, morphology, and sight word recognition. Now I've gone over all of these things so you understand this. And it says Emma breaks down the word unhappiness right away. I'm going to pay attention because it's got a suffix, it's got a root, and it's got a prefix. So we're talking about affixes here into meaningful parts, unhappiness. Notice that meaningful, the meaning in words. Well, what is the meaning in words? Morphology. So notice in all of these questions that there are nuances in the answer choices. There are nuances in the test question itself. You really have to pay attention to some of these little things. I just did a video on YouTube. It's one of my latest videos where I break down a question that has, phonics answer choices, phonemic awareness answer choices, but the question is asking about a phonics skill. So you really have to understand the difference between phonics, phonemic awareness, phonological awareness, morphology, sight word recognition, onset and rhyme, and there are lots and lots of little skills that you need to understand here. All right. So let me go and stop sharing here and just see if anybody has any questions. Is the hardcover book better than the downloaded copy? Okay, so quick question on my study guide. So this is 5006. I have a 7811 as well. I just couldn't get it delivered in time. It is available. It's on Amazon and on the website. The digital copy is identical to the physical copy. It's just that we offer the digital because a lot of times people need the study guide right away, like they're taking the test in just a couple of days and they can't wait. Also, some people prefer to read it on their iPad. It is a PDF document of the physical copy. So it's identical. It's exactly the same. All right. So don't worry about that. And don't buy both the physical and the digital, because that's a waste of money. You're buying the same book twice. The other thing I'll tell you is, don't buy the subtest. Let me share screen really quickly just to explain something so you guys don't. Okay, so let's say you're taking the 7811 here and you buy the 7811 book. Okay, so you've come to my website, you buy the 7811, maybe you buy the digital download or maybe you buy the physical copy, whatever you want to do. Don't go then and buy all the other subtests. The reason why we break these up is because you could pass, let's say you pass the reading and language arts, you pass the science, and you pass the social studies. You may only have mathematics left because these individual subtests are graded separately. So just get the math. Don't buy the 7811 and then buy the 1213. You know what I mean? Because you're just buying the same book over and over again. The same thing goes for this one. If you buy the 5006, you are getting this 07 and the 08. I do have a digital course for the 7813 math and the 5008 math because the math is really hard. We're going to talk about it in a second. But don't buy all three. If you buy the whole book, you're getting the 07 and the 08. If you only need to pass the 07, then just get the 07. You notice it's a little bit cheaper. So just letting you guys know that because it's important that you don't overbuy. And of course, the physical book is identical to the digital book. It's just that it's in a different form. Okay. Great question. Thank you so much for asking that. All right. I bought the 5001 before you did the 5006. Will it not be helpful to this test? I bought the 506 as well this week, but should I forget about the 5001? Okay. If you bought the 5001, I know we're talking in all these numbers, so people who are new are probably like, my head is exploding. The 5001 is an elementary ed book. So it is definitely going to help you. It's an older book and it still is going strong. The 5006 is newer with some new stuff in it and some new questions and things like that. Both books are going to help you. But the thing I would say about this test and the 7811 and the 5006 is that there is more of an emphasis on the teaching process. Now, for the English language arts, on all elementary ed for English language arts, the focus is on the teaching of reading. That's like the whole essence of it. Where it differs is in the math, the science, and the social science or social studies. On some elementary ed tests, like the 5001 and the 5901, they're both the same test, except one is missing English language arts. But anyways, you have to basically do math. They give you a math problem and you do it. They give you a science problem and you do it. Like you have to identify the water cycle, or you have to know the difference what electrons are in an atom and all of that stuff. Okay. So it's just like recall knowledge. A lot of the science and the social science is memorization of facts, and the math is working out the math. The difference between that and these two tests, the 5006 and the 7811, there are a lot of questions attached to the teaching process. So not only do you need to understand the water cycle and an atom and the Allied powers during World War II and all of this information, you have to be able to spot the proper teaching practices in doing it. Now, it seems overwhelming when you first start it, but I'm going to show you how they're still assessing your information. They kind of embed a little bit of teaching scenario in there. I've got some examples here I'm going to go over, but the 5001 will help you if you've already purchased it, stick with it. And you already got the 5006. So I would also read that book. There's going to be a lot of information in there. But the difference is that the 5006 and the 7811 is the content knowledge for teaching, and it's heavy on the teaching practices. They like bump it up a level. You have to know the content, and then you have to know how to teach the content and identify where students need help in certain areas. All right. Okay. So let's jump on over. I'm going to go to the social studies part. Let me share my screen again here. And let's have a look at this. Now, this is an example of what a social science question is going to look like on these exams. So both the 7811 and the 5006. On the 5006, the social science is in with the language arts and reading. So it's going to be part of the 5007. Oh my God, I know, it's so crazy. And the social science in the 7811 is actually the 7815. It's the last section. All right. Don't worry too much about that. Whether you're taking the 7811 or the 5006, it's all going to work here. Now, let's have a look at number 4 here. Now I have these answer choices. I'm just going to quickly have a look because I can tell this is a scenario question. It's very long. I know right away it's going to be a scenario question. And here's a little trick that I do. I have a Venn diagram, a map. Oops, I didn't mean to cross that off. I'm trying not to cross things out so you guys can see it. So I have a Venn diagram, a map, a timeline, and a video. So a lot of times you'll see these patterns when they're showing you things. So just pay attention. We're just looking. Okay, we got like graphic organizers, things students are going to take the abstract of something and turn it into concrete, right? And then it says showing similarities. We've got to show different geographic, to a timeline is going to show the events, and a video about the Holocaust. Now, typically on the test, not all the time, but a video is going to be my least favorite question, least favorite answer choice here, because I mean, videos work. They work great, but you know, we're not supposed to just be showing videos in social studies class, but a lot of social studies teachers do. But a video is going to be my least favorite here. So I'm just going to pay attention to that. But a Venn diagram, a map, and a timeline work. Let's read the question and figure out what we're talking about here. So it says a teacher is helping students understand the difference, keyword here, between Allied and Axis powers of World War II. Which of the following would be most effective in helping students understand these differences? Again, differences. Well, what do we do when we talk about, you know, differences, similarities? We're talking about a Venn diagram, right? Now, we have the word difference here, and I have the word similarities here, but let's read the answer choice. A Venn diagram showing the similarities among Great Britain, the Soviet Union, China, and the US. So here's where you have to know the social studies. You have to know that Great Britain, the Soviet Union, China, and the United States are the big four of World War II. Those are the Allied powers. And then I have this word here, and let me erase because I kind of covered it up with my... Then I have this word here, how those countries differed from Germany, Italy, and Japan, which were the Axis powers. Now, notice that I have to have a little bit of social studies knowledge, and I have to understand that a Venn diagram is going to show me similarities and differences. And here I have the word differed, and I'm looking at the difference between the Allied and Axis powers. So it's peppering in your knowledge of World War II and the big four, and then also the Axis powers, and then the teaching piece. What do we do to teach it? So A is looking like my favorite. Let's have a look at B. A map of the world showing the different geographic locations of the Allied and Axis powers and their positions during battle. That doesn't really answer this question here. So I'm going to cross it off. See, a timeline showing the different, a timeline of the events that led to World War II. That's not what we're talking here. We're talking about the difference between Allied and Axis powers. Very specific. They have different ideologies. They have different philosophies. They have different desires and goals. So that's out. A timeline's not going to show you that. And then a video about the Holocaust and how different countries reacted to the atrocities. This is kind of unrelated as well, because it's not really connected to the difference between the Allied and the Axis powers. And so that's why A is going to be our answer there. All right. So let me just clean up a little bit here because it's kind of messy and I don't want to mess up my second question. All right. Let's go to the second one and make sure everything's going okay. All right. We're good. We're live. We're good. My screen is sharing. Perfect. Let's go to the answer choices. Again, looks like a big scenario question for me. A, reading primary source documents from factory workers during this time. Okay, primary source document is a good word on this exam. What they want you to understand about this test is that you should be using primary and secondary sources to reinforce concepts. So a primary source is straight from the people who experienced the phenomenon. So a letter, a diary, an interview directly with the person who is there. The U.S. Constitution is a primary source. You know, anything that is the original document. Now, a textbook being written about World War II or being written about the Civil War, that's a secondary source. What we have to do is bring in the secondary sources because those are the things that are readily available to us as social studies teachers, but then bringing in those primary source documents to support what is happening. So A, I like. Let's have a look at B. Watching a documentary on technological advances that occurred inside factories. Again, watching a documentary, watching a video, not always the right answer. Sometimes, sure, but I'm going to cross it off. It's not as good as reading primary source documents. C, creating a timeline of key events and inventions during the Civil War. Timeline's a good word. We use timelines in social studies. I still like primary source documents the best, but we'll see. And let's have a look at D, participating in a debate. Okay, I like the debate because that's interactive. It's fosters critical thinking. They have to support their evidence with text, text evidence, things like that. That's really good. And on the social and economic impacts of industrialization and working conditions of the time, I like D as well. So let's have a look at the question, but notice I got rid of B right away. All right. A fourth grade teacher wants to help students understand the working conditions of factory workers during the Industrial Revolution. The class has already read from the textbook and discussed working conditions. Which activity would be most effective in enhancing their understanding of this time? Now let's have a look at A, reading primary source documents from the actual factory workers who were there. We're talking about working conditions right here, working conditions. Well, who's going to know working conditions best? Probably the factory workers, and a primary source document next to the textbook that they've already read and discussed would be a really great way to reinforce. I'm circling A. Let's go back and discredit. See, a timeline of key events and inventions, unrelated. They're always going to have an unrelated answer there. And D, participating in a debate on the social and economic impacts of industrialization and working conditions. You might say, well, that one's good too, but it says, what would be the most effective? You're going to see this in the questions. What's the most effective? Well, taking a primary source document from a factory worker is going to be most effective here because we have the word factory workers right here in the question. So make sure you can pull out those nuances. All right. Now we're going to go to math, but first I'm going to just swipe over here and make sure we are good. No questions from anybody there. Any questions at all about the social science or the reading and language arts? Let me know. And we will keep moving. All right, no problem. Let's keep going. Entire screen again. Okay, so now we're going to move to the math. Now, the math is hard. Not only is the math, like the doing of the math, difficult on this exam, but then also understanding the process that students are going through on the exam. So we really have to understand, the mathematical processes in the brain, math fluency, how they progress into better skills, or I shouldn't say better skills, how they progress into more advanced skills and things like that. And so I've chosen these two questions. I think I have 3 questions. Yeah, I have 3 questions in the thing. Okay. So the last question we'll do is actually a math test question, but you're going to get a mix of teaching questions versus math questions. Let's have a look at number 6 here. Now I'm looking at the answer choices and I can see if I've read my study guide, I know that these are student skills, students thinking. So all of these are outlined in the study guide. I'll go over them in just a second, but let's have a look at the question here. A teacher has several paper plates with dots that represent numbers. She shows a plate to a student who quickly and accurately identifies how many dots are on the paper plate. Which of the following describes this process? Well, this is similar, when you're looking at a die or a pair of dice, you know that if you see that, it's 3 right away. If you see this, it's 5 right away. You know that if you see this, it's 6 right away. This is 4 right away. That is called subitizing. And it's an essential skill that students need to have in the early math stages. They need to be able to look at a group of 3 things and go, there are 3 things right there. It's a concrete skill. Students go from concrete to abstract, meaning they have to put their hands on it. They have to see it first. You can't just say 5 minus 2 is 3. They have to literally look at the 5 items on the desk, pull 2 away, make them disappear, and then see that there are, 5 minus 2? So 5 things on the desk, 2 things are removed. Then they see there are 3 things left. Sorry. Sorry about that. And so that is subitizing when you can look and see these numbers. Transitivity is kind of a relationship among things. So you might say something like this. Let me erase this here and just show you. I'm going to attempt to draw a pencil. Well, I'm just going to draw lines, okay? So let's say this is line A and it's here. And let's say this is line B and it's here. And this is line C and it's here. Well, we know that B is smaller than A. And if C is smaller than B, then C is also smaller than A. You're kind of transferring the information from the different lines to understand right away, well, C is definitely smaller than A because that's smaller than B and B is smaller than A. So that's how that works. Cognitive complexity, and I'm going to cross that out. Cognitive complexity is just making things more difficult or at a higher level of thinking. And that's not really what's going on here. This is a subitizing activity, so I'm going to cross that off. And flexibility is solving problems differently in different ways, right? So you may have fractions, right? And you may have taught students how to get to a common denominator. You might have showed them how to deconstruct the fraction. There's all different ways to solve math problems, and having that flexibility is very important in math because it's going to help you do one thing or the other. But that's not what's happening here. Students are knowing when they see the paper plate with a dot on it like this, they go 4 really quickly. That's subitizing. All right, let's have a look at number 7. I can see there's some student work here. And it says, what is the error in the student's thinking? I go right here to the question stem. I'm going to not look at the answer choices here because I already have the question stem and I can go straight to this diagram here and have a look. Okay. So notice that we have 10 minus 7 is 3. So they subtracted in the ones column first. This is a place value question. It's also a student process question. It's a subtraction question. A lot of questions in math will assess different skills. So that's what's happening here. So we have 10 minus 7 is 3. We learned that we have to make the 0 a 10. All right. But then what the student did was he forgot to take that away in the tens section or the tens column. And this student kept the 2. And so it looks like 20 minus 17 is 13, and that is not correct. 20 minus 17 is 3 because we have to take it away. They used to call it borrowing. Now they call it regrouping. Whatever it is, you have to compensate for the 10 you borrowed from the tens column. So let's have a look at A. The student has no understanding of subtraction. Well, that's not true because the student subtracted 7 from 10 correctly and got this 3 here. So A is out. B, the student does not understand how to subtract numbers in the tens place. Well, actually, it looks like he does or she does because we have the tens place here. She didn't borrow properly. But 2 minus 1 is 1 here, if that were the correct way of doing it, and it's not. I'm going to keep it just in case because they did mess up the tens column, but the student does know how to subtract from the tens column. C, the student does not know how to count to 20, unrelated, doesn't make sense there. And D, the student does not understand the algorithm of borrowing 10 from a higher place value. And that's exactly where the student made the mistake. The student changed this 0 to 10. What do we have to do? We have to take it away from here, which would have left this a 0, and the correct answer would have been 3. And so that's the student process that is lacking here. And again, we had to kind of know the math. This math is pretty easy. And then we had to figure out where the student needed assistance and understand where the student was making the error. Okay, and let's have a look at one more math question. I chose this one because people tend to lose their minds, especially those who don't love math, and they see this and they're like, "Oh my gosh!" So here's another way to work backwards. Let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. It always pushes it up every time I zoom in. All right, let's just keep it there. So right away with math, I go to the answer choices first too, because it tells me something. It helps me to narrow down. So I can see from the answer choices that I'm not looking for an actual solving of the problem. I'm looking for an equation that I have to apply to this word problem. And the other thing I want to pay attention to are the signs I have inequality signs. I have less than, greater than, less than, or less than and equal to. When you have something like this, you have the less than sign and then you have the equal sign. This one is greater than or equal to. All right. So that's really important because I'm going to be able, when you have signs like this in an answer choice, you're going to be able to eliminate some of them right away. And so that's why I always go to the answer choices in math as well. Let's have a look at the question. Heather buys some tomatoes for $2 each and 3 onions for $1.25 each. So we've got $2 tomatoes each, $1.25 each for the onions. She spent less than $9 on the tomatoes and onions. Which operation represents the scenario? Less than. So anything without a less than sign is out. B is out and D is out. She didn't say she could spend no more than $9. If it said she can spend no more than $9, that means she could spend $9 or less, which would be this sign here. But that's not what it's saying. It's saying she spent less than. It's a very definitive less than. So now I'm down to just 2 answer choices, A and B, or A and C. Sorry, A and C. Now let's have a look. So we have tomatoes. We're going to represent, I noticed these T's in the answer choice. Again, I'm using my answer choices here to figure things out. And the 2 is attached to tomatoes. So I know that we've got a 2T here, but then we have this 125 and I can see A says plus 125 and C says plus 375. Well, it says we have 3 onions. And notice I don't have a variable to use here. So I have to add up 125 plus 125 plus 125, which gives me 3.75 is less than 9. What she spent on tomatoes and onions was less. T's and O is less than 9. All right. So that's going to be C, marking out A. And not easy. But if you use those answer choices and you kind of use a little bit of the question and you work around it, it's going to be good. You're going to be fine. Okay. All right. Let's go back here, see if there are any questions. No questions. You guys are just, hope I'm not missing anybody. Let me know if you have any questions. Again, the math is tough. Don't let anybody tell you, oh, it's an elementary test. It's not that hard. There's algebra on it, geometry on it, volume, all kinds of things. And on top of that, understanding the processes the brain goes through. So just remember that. All right. All right. Our last little bit is going to be science. And I'm going to show you how the teaching scenarios in science are really important here. So I have 2 questions that are going to highlight this. So let's have a look again, share my screen, and we're to science. Now, this is number 9 and 10. Now, which of the sorry, answer choices first, Jasper. I always forget my own strategy. Okay, so I have energy pyramid, food web, food chain, and family taxonomy. One thing that you could do here with these answer choices is understand that this is life science. So on every science exam, there's going to be earth space, there's going to be life, and there's going to be physical science. And when we're talking about animals and the food web and energy pyramids and all that, we're talking about life science. So it's always good to understand that, like, okay, this is life science. I need to put my, biology thinking cap on. All right. Let's have a look at the question. Which of the following would be, again, most effective in showing students that energy is lost as it is transferred from one trophic system to another? Okay. Now, you'd have to read the study guide to really understand this, but let's say I didn't know. Let's say I'm like, oh my God, what's a trophic system? Oh my God, what are all these things? Well, right away, I could probably cross off B because a food web doesn't have levels. We're talking about one system to another in terms of levels. And a food web doesn't do that. A food web has got like, oh, I can't draw it, but I'm just going to put little dots as animals here. Just pretend. And you got the grass here. I have a really good graphic of this in the book, but you've got the grass, and let's say this is a bunny right here, and the bunny eats the grass, but then this hawk eats the bunny, but the hawk also eats the snake, and the snake also eats the bunny. And maybe this is a frog and the snake eats the frog. Notice that it's kind of intermingled there. Let me see if I can find that. Let me go to science really quickly. Let me find my graphic. I'm very proud of it because I made it in Canva. And there it is. There's a food web. Okay, see the food web? Let me zoom in. Oops, I'm zooming in on the pages. Hold on. Let me click here. Come on, Jasper. All right, there we go. So we have the food web here. I love my little food web. I made this for the book. So anyways, you've got the bunny and you got the frog and you got the grasshopper. And those are basically the ones that eat the grass. And then you have the fox that eats the bunny. But this hawk here kind of looks like an eagle, not a hawk, but whatever, eats the bunny, and the snake eats the frog, but the bird eats the snake, and it's all kind of intermingled and it's a web. Okay. Now an energy pyramid is going to look something like this. Now, an energy pyramid shows you the reduction in energy as something moves up the pyramid. So grass is 100% producer, meaning it produces all the food. The grass doesn't eat anything. We do not have bunny eating grass. Hopefully we never do. You never know with evolution. We could someday have bunny eating grass, but we do not right now. And so the grass gets its energy, well, it takes light from the sun and carbon dioxide and produces carbohydrates, right? In the form of grass, in the form of stalks, in the form of leaves and things like that. And so the bunny hops over and the bunny eats the grass, right? And the bunny gets energy and the bunny goes hopping and the snake goes, ooh, there's a bunny. Let me eat the bunny. So the snake gets some energy from the bunny, but some of that energy is lost as we're moving up. Now, it's not lost. The theory of conservation energy means that energy in the universe is neither created nor destroyed. It's just all here. So the bunny ate the grass and got the energy from the grass and then burned off some of that energy as it's hopping. Okay. It has ATP. It went through cellular respiration and it burned off some of that energy. So by the time the snake comes and eats the bunny, it's getting energy from the bunny, but not as much energy as the bunny got from the grass. Now, the energy is still there out in the universe in the form of waste and things like that, but I'm just talking about the animals here. Then the bird is like, ooh, there's a snake. I want to eat the snake. Well, the snake got some energy from the bunny. Now the bird is going to get some energy from the snake, and on it goes. But as you move up the energy pyramid, you're losing energy. Energy is reduced. It's still in the universe. I don't want people to go on YouTube and say, energy is not lost. It's not lost, but it's transferred and it's not available in the way that these animals need it to be, is what I'm saying. So anyways, that's how you deal with that. So the best thing there is going to be energy. Now you can see the word energy and the word energy here. This will happen on the test. You'll see the same words in the question and the answer choice. Pay attention to that. It's not a trick. It happens. Food chain is sort of like an energy pyramid where you see, like, as you move up the food chain, for example, in this particular thing here, the hawk would be at the top of this particular food chain, but energy pyramids show the energy loss or the energy reduction. So that wouldn't be as good as energy pyramid. And family taxonomy, this is the Linnaean system. This is where you put things into phylums, classes, families, species, and that's not what's really going on here. So D is out, leaving A, energy pyramid, the correct answer. All right, let's have a look at number 10. Now, this is a teaching scenario question in science, and you're going to get this on the exam. Let's go ahead and have a look at the answer choices. A, build a partition in the aquarium to separate the larger fish from the smaller ones. Right away, I can see that the kids are doing something. They are doing some sort of an experiment. I need to pay attention to some nuances here. All right, build a partition, gather information, change the type of fish, transfer the larger fish. I don't need to read the whole answer choice here. I can just kind of go with the action that's happening. So we have build, gather information, change the type, and transfer. Right away, gather information. Telling you guys, pay attention to this. On these science teaching exams, the teaching part of the science, gathering information is the research stage of an experiment, or when you change an experiment. It's a good word. So pay attention to that. Also, controlling for other variables is a good word when we're talking about the scientific method. But B is looking good, but the other things are good too. Let's have a look at the question. A team of students wants to create a better habitat for a small school of fish in their classroom aquarium. Their current problem is the small fish are often scared away from the feeding area by the larger fish. All right, so the larger fish are coming in and eating all the food, and the small fish are scared, and they're like, I don't want to eat that. What would be the most suitable first step, again, you're going to see this in the questions. First step in developing their solution. The first step is to gather the information about behaviors and feeding habits of both small and large fish. We have to understand the problem before we can start building the prototype or building the thing, the apparatus. So right away, B is going to be my answer. Build a partition in the aquarium to separate the fish. This could be problematic because by separating the fish, you could be inadvertently reducing, I don't know, access to other things in the aquarium that the smaller fish need and that the larger fish need. So that I wouldn't jump to that right away. Change the type of fish food they are currently using. Again, without gathering information, we can't just jump to that action. Transfer the larger fish to another aquarium. I mean, it probably would work pretty well. Just take the larger fish out and put it in a different aquarium. But this is trying to show students how to solve a problem with research. And so D is out, making B the correct answer there, gathering that information and making decisions based on that. All right, let's have a look. Okay, so any more questions, you guys can have a look, put them in the chat. One more thing I want to show you before we end. I cannot believe it. I'm on time, 55 minutes and 29 seconds. Yes, I never make it on time. One thing I want to show you is some free resource I have. Oh, first, you got to Google the study companion. Just go into Google and Google your test and the words study companion, and you will find this link. Ignore the ads for study guides, ignore the ads for everything else, go straight to the document. This is very important. I do have pieces of this document in my book. So if you already purchased the book, it's there at the beginning of each section, but make sure, you read this. This is, and I love the new ETS study companions because they have these guiding questions that are high level. And if you can answer these questions, that means that on test day, no matter what you get asked, you should be good. So really pay attention to these discussion questions. I love that they do this. No other testing company that I know for teacher certification has as comprehensive of a blueprint and test spec as ETS. They do a great job on this. And normally I'm very critical of test companies, but they are really trying here to give you all the information you need. Second, I have a YouTube channel with tons of information. I also have a playlist on my YouTube channel. Let me close this menu over here. For 7811 content knowledge for teaching. There are 10 videos here where I go through even more specific about science. They're grouped by science, language arts, social studies, all that. If you're taking the 5006, it's the same. Go ahead and check that out. Also, I have a lot of other videos. I just posted about teaching reading here. I'm doing a lot of shorts now because I know people like shorter videos. Also, I'm on TikTok. If you're on TikTok, follow me. I'm doing all kinds of different things. I'm doing a lot on research papers there too. So if you're in graduate school and you want some research paper help, that will help you. Of course, I'm also doing test prep there. Facebook, for some reason, I was not live today on Facebook, which I'm very disappointed, but I will try to fix that later and upload the video. But you can see on Facebook, we have tons of stuff there, and all of our videos and things like that are there. So go ahead and check that out. And then, of course, Instagram. I'm on Instagram, which looks a lot like my TikTok stuff. Beyond that, on KathleenJasper.com, free webinars here. Free webinars. I forgot to share those tabs. Let me show you. Here's TikTok, Facebook. I wasn't sharing. You have to share each individual thing. So anyways, Facebook, TikTok, and all the other social medias there. Now, one more thing. I want to show you my free webinars. This is updated all the time. So under this tab right here, free webinars, it'll take you here. And right now you're in the 5006 and 7811. It's kind of tiny on the desktop, sorry. But I'm having special education next week. So you just click on that. If you're already in the webinar, you know this. You just click on those and you fill out this form and it's all there for you, okay? So go to the free webinars page here and you will get and I have past ones. I have elementary ed, SLLA for leadership, teaching reading. These are all the latest. And then I have early childhood and all of that. So lots of free stuff there for you. And of course, they all come with little mini study guides and things like that. Okay. And finally, last but not least, oh, I got 60 seconds. This is my new book, Teach, a Survival Guide for New Teachers. Some of you might be going into the classroom here soon, and you might want a nice, simple way to kind of break some things down. I published this back in February, and it's kind of dumb to publish it in February because it's in the middle of the year, but I started my career in the middle of the year. But if you are looking for a quick summer read to get you prepared for the next school year, this is a really good one. And it's just simple and easy with all the things I used to do as a teacher that worked for me, bare bones, nice and easy, nothing complicated. I talk about lesson planning, classroom management, your teacher evaluations, some specific staple strategies you can use every day to make it easy on yourself, how to stay positive, all of that. So if you're interested, this is on Amazon, and in the email, you'll get all of that. So when I sign off today, you're going to get an email from me, offer codes, information, everything you need. And if you have any questions, you can always email me back at info@kathleenjasper.com. And let's have a look and see if there are any other questions. Margaret asked, when will you do another math session? I just did a Praxis core math session. I do have a 7813 math online course, and you'll get the link with that in the email, and it's all math, and we go through all the questions there. But I will add math to my list for upcoming webinars. Does special ed have the same tests like elementary? Match, SC, SS, and language? No, math. Okay. No, special ed is about like being a special education teacher. So it's about the developmental stages of students. It's about least restrictive environment. It's about identifying and helping students who are struggling. It's all of that. Another good question, is the Praxis math course similar to 7813? No. The Praxis math is a basic skills math test. It's similar to an ACT or an SAT. So it's not going to have any teaching scenarios in it. It's going to be straight up math. And I just did a webinar on that. You can go to that page that I showed you. There's going to be a link in the email I send you, and you can go through that. But I have a whole program for Praxis math that is straight math. You have to have the same skills as a high school 10th grader in order to master that particular math. Are the 5006 and 7813 the same but subdivided by subject? Yes. So I went over this in the beginning. The 5006 is divided into two subtests, the 5007 and the 5008, but covers all four subject areas. The 7811 is divided into four parts: ELA and reading, math, social studies, and science. They both have similar stuff, but if you are working on the 7811, buy the 7811 book. If you are working on the 5006, buy the 5006 book. You can also get them on my website separated out if you only need one subtest. So I am taking the 5006, but I passed the math and science part, but not the ELA part. Do I have to retake the entire thing? No, you do not. So let me just show you. Oh my God, now I'm over. Now you guys did it. I'm over. That's okay. All right. So you said, oh, we're very zoomed in here. You said that you passed the 5007, which was the English language arts and the social studies. You just need this 5008. So you can just get this book and that's it. And you're good to go. So, and you only have to take this section. The same goes with the, let me go here. Let's go to the 7811. The same thing goes with the 7811. Let's say you took the full test here and you passed math and science, and all you have left is social studies and language arts. You're only going to have to take those two. They are scored separately. The only difference is that the 5006 has two subtests and the 7811 has four, but they are scored separately. I hope that makes sense. Stop sharing. Do you have a study guide for secondary biology? I wish I did. I taught biology. That was my subject area, and English. I love teaching biology, but writing a biology textbook is a whole other ballgame. There's a lot that goes into it. I hope to someday have one, but it's a lot. It's a lot of science. It's a lot of graphics, and it's a lot of things that I don't have the capability of doing right now, but I do hope that it's on my list because I love bio. That was my subject area. So, is Pearson the same as Praxis? No, it is not. Pearson makes the Pearson exams. ETS makes Praxis. However, most teacher certification exams are very similar, not the same, but similar. So what you can do is Google your blueprint for Praxis and then Google the study companion for this exam or whatever one you see that I'm doing and look at the similarities, and you can kind of go from there. All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, I am so happy you spent your Saturday with me today. I hope this was beneficial for you. Be on the lookout for that email. It's coming right now, just as soon as this thing optimizes and posts. I will send it out to you and you'll get the offer code and everything else. I hope you have a wonderful, relaxing Saturday, and I'll be back next week for special education. So thank you so much, you guys, for taking